All right, we're right back where we left off here. So we're going to make the recesses in here. There are many different ways that we can do this, okay? So the way we're going to do it first is we're going to pick on this face right here, and we're going to go into our sketch world, and we're going to draw a shape on the top of this. I could, let me come over here and I'll turn this on. Origin, see this right here? This is our plane system that you saw before when I originally made a sketch. Didn't really talk about it. I'll hide the body so you can see this. Here's the blue. The blue, start to recognize this. The blue is the z-axis. The y and the x you can see right here, or green and the red. They're not quite so important, I'd say, right now to remember which one is facing forward. If you really want to think of it this way, you typically usually y is facing away from us, but again, doesn't really matter. I'm more concerned about z pointing up. So now this plane right here is known as the XY plane. So if I open this up, you'll see there's XY. And the reason it's XY is because it's a plane built off of the X and Y plane right here. If this was actually a stick sticking out there, and this one was, and we put a board over the top of them, that's what you get. So this one here is the z-axis, blue is the z-axis, and the red right here is the x-axis. So which plane do you think that is? Well, some call it the zx, this one calls it the xz, okay? And this one over here is the yz plane. So that's why those are there. Now, why am I telling you about this? Well, because I haven't, so that's one thing. And the other thing is that if I bring back the body right here, I mentioned that I could make a sketch right up here on the top of this. So imagine I made a square, and then I cut it down into the part a certain amount. In this case, it's going to be 5 millimeters. The other thing I could do is I could make more of these plane things, because you have to have flat things in order to make sketches. So all of these flat faces I could make a sketch off of, and all the planes. If I had a rounded corner, I cannot do that, okay? So a thing that we might want to do from time to time is you come up here to construct, and these are all of our different axes, points, and planes that we have right here. And a very common one is an offset plane. So I hit this one, and then, well, do you notice this? Side topic. Be careful what you're clicking on before you click something else. I was clicking on that face, and it wants to offset this plane now from that face. Okay, so there you go. By the way, that's what offset plane does. It's not what I wanted. So cancel that, click on the background so I'm not selecting anything, hit construct, and then come down here, and I could pick either that plane right there or this face. There's a lot of reasons later down the road why you might want to think about which one you want to pick, even though they're both in the same location as far as, you know, this plane is concerned. So I hit that one because that's the one I want right now. And I could bring this up a little bit. How far? Well, the block is 10. If I wanted it 5 down from the top, that's pretty easy math. I could make that be 5. And now that I have that plane, the plane, by the way, is infinite as far as the shape goes here. Here, watch this. You see this? I can grab it, and I can kind of wangle it around here a little bit, you see? So don't think that you can only draw on that tiny little square. It's infinite as far as this XY direction is going here, but it is right in the middle of that part, or more specifically, it is 5 millimeters down from the top, because the block is 10 millimeters thick, right? And I could go onto this plane, and I could draw a square, and I could actually cut it upwards through the whole part. Do you see? It's a little bit more out there, right? But that is a thing that happens quite frequently. If I don't have a surface or a thing to make a sketch on with the part that's available to me, then I get these plain things out here, and I start trying to finagle them around to get them where I want so I could build a sketch on them, okay? They reside over here in the tree under construction. So there's that plane right there. I can hide it. I can bring it back. I can hide all the planes that are under construction if I wanted to. And in this case here, I just want to get rid of it because we don't need it, okay? So that was just a little look-see on how we go about making our sketches. I'm going to click on this top face, go here, and I'm looking down at the part. Now, in Sketch, if I tip this off to the side like this, I can see that little mesh, that grid that we call our sketch environment, right? CATIA, you know, if you hear me say sketcher, that's what CATIA calls it. So we are literally, you know, as you can see on the top of that face, okay? Now, if I want to flatten this out, look at this cube up here. It rotates with me, right? I can click on top and that'll flatten it out, all right? So here's what I want. I want to make a square that we recess through. So I'm going to do this real quick fast and then tell you why it's a problem. I click this. This is a 2-point rectangle and it works like this. I click one corner and then I click another corner like so, right? And there's my rectangle. And now if I wanted to, I can finish this sketch and then I can go over here to extrude and I can pull this down and I can cut it through it. I can go over here and I can say, notice the minus sign since it's going the negative direction there. It always does that. You have to just back through this. It wants a negative number. So -5. And now I have a slot through here, a recess into this that is 5 millimeters deep. Okay. So here are the problems with this. Probably the obvious problem is it's not actually dimensioned with width and placement here very well. And other things are more like design best practices, okay? But these are really, really important best practices, okay? So I'm going to always, in all my videos, for as long as I've had my channel, I have talked about good practice, right? It's very, very important if you're in a production environment. If this is something you're going to send to a 3D printer, yeah, maybe you don't care, okay? So let's get back to the sketch. Editing sketches. How do I edit a sketch? Well, I can come over here to the tree. I can see my sketches here. If I click this one, by the way, it automatically hides the sketch after I do something with it, as in extrude it down. But you can just hit the eyeball and turn it back on, right? So I do that. And then I could, well, actually, you don't need to see it to do this, but I could go edit sketch right here. I'm right clicking, edit sketch. Or I could come down here. If I know that this is the sketch, you can see it kind of highlights, and then I could do the same thing. I could right click and say edit sketch. Great. Now we can come in here and start dimensioning this. But here is where the problems start coming up. And, well, let's just get to it. I need this to be 5 millimeters wide. Okay, so this is 5. So what did I just do there? Did you catch that? I'm starting to speed up now because I'm assuming you paused and you tried some of this. I hit D for dimension and I added the dimension there, okay? Now, the next part, where's the placement of this? We haven't even talked about where it should be. If I recall correctly, I think that edge to edge, they might be separated by 10, right? But there's 2 of them, so we got to get another one over here as well. So I grab another one and I bring it over here and I click. Now I have to dimension this one too. So I hit D for dimension, bring this one out here and make it be 5. Okay, but they're obviously too long, but you might think, well, that doesn't really matter. This is where a best practice comes in, and this is a very solid best practice. If you were an employee of a technical design team and you just left your junk all laying out all over here like this, no, that you can't do that. That's not done this way. So here's the problem. Here's the problem. If I were to exit out of Sketch right now, the extrude, by the way, only knows about that one, so I wouldn't do another extrude. I could just double click on the previous extrude and I can pick this other one right there. Okay. Again, please realize I know that you're watching this as a video and I'm talking pretty quickly. Pause it, rewind it, listen to what I'm saying, okay? So I hit OK with this, and now I've got both of those things there. Well, what's going to happen in this environment right now if I go back to this original one here and I go, oh yeah, I don't want it to be 80, I want it to be 120. Oops. Oh, well, that's an oops too, you see? So I want it to be 120 because maybe I forgot or they changed their mind or whatever. But now, because I changed it, those slots that I left at a very arbitrary length, they're not, you know, all the way through any longer. So what am I going to do with this? Well, first let's undo this, Control Z to get that back where it was. What I could do, you could say, is I could go back to the sketch. That time, by the way, I just double clicked on the sketch to get back into it. I can hit D for dimension and I can make this thing be 80 just the same as the other. But you see that it's a little under, a little over. So I need to somehow get this all lined up. So there's a handful of different ways I could do this, but some of them start to feel not worth even trying to demonstrate, okay? Because I can see that they're probably suboptimal. They all have their value, all the different ways. Like, for example, I could find the center point between like this line and this line, or the center point of this line and the center point of this line, and draw a line connecting them. Then I could make that line even with the center point. I could maybe do that. What else could we? Well, the way we're going to do it is, what I would like to do is maybe just make this thing right here even with this, because in the first case, even if I were to make this centered right onto here, if I increase the length of the other, this being 80, it's still, it's still going to have a problem. So that's no good. So here's what we want to do. We actually just want to get rid of this. And I would like to take this line right there, and I want to make it permanently stuck to this edge. No matter where that edge goes, I want it to track with it, okay? So the thing that we're going to look at is a projection. I'm going to show you this. We'll connect this stuff, and we'll stop this video here because it's already getting a little bit longer than I want them to be. For the shorties, at least. So here's what a projection is. A projection projects something, okay? So in order to demonstrate that, I'm going to exit out of here. Whenever we do projections for the first time, we're projecting something onto a sketch that is on this surface, let's say, and it's hard to understand. Let's just go with it's kind of hard to understand what's going on. So I'm going to go back to this construct thing again, and I'm going to stick a plane out here in space, okay? Stick a plane way out here, and I'll hit OK. And I go into sketch on that, right? So now watch, I turn this to the side, and there's my grid, you see? So there's my grid right there. And what I want to do is I want to take, let's say, this edge or this edge. How about that little edge right there? I would like to project that over onto this. So I go over here, and I find project, which is P. Okay, there's other types of projections, by the way. So if you get in a habit of hitting the keys, get in a habit of hitting the keys. It's really great. But don't forget that there's other types. Okay, so I'll just click on the background. I'll hit P for project, and this window pops up. You could select something first and then hit the window, or you could hit the window and then you could select something. It doesn't matter. But watch this. If I turn this to the side, move this over here, watch when I hover over this. See this? See over here? It's projecting it already, all those different things. So what I would want is maybe like this edge down here, let's say. So I click that, I'll maybe get this other one, and I don't know, maybe I wanted this one down here for some silly reason, you see? And I hit OK, and now I have the kind of purple lavender lines right here. Those are projections. The deal with this is that they are linked to this part. If this part changes in any way, it gets longer or wider, the channel gets wider, these things will follow along with it. I cannot change them here. If I try to grab it or do something like that, it won't let me grab it. It is locked, okay? So that's what a projection is. Now, before I go, I want to tell you about another thing we do quite frequently, though, which is this line and this thing called, I'm going to use CATIA lingo because Fusion doesn't have lingo for this. We would call this a standard element, and a standard element is used to extrude a thing. So let me demonstrate. I'm going to make a square, okay? And then I'm going to finish this, finish the sketch, and I'm going to hit E to extrude. I can extrude this, you see? I could actually extrude a line if I pick this other thing as well. But the point here is I can pick it, you see? Okay, so that's good. Sometimes I don't want to be able to do that with this thing, and that is what construction lines are for. So I go here, move this off to the side, and I'll show you this right here. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. I want to take this one right here. I come over here to line type, and I turn it into a construction line. I pick it, and now you can barely see it, but it's a dash. If I click on it there, you can see it better, right? So that feature now is not selectable as, well, to extrude it, to make a 3D object out of it. These ones still would. This one, of course, still would as well, right? So I can come out here. I can hit extrude. I can go to this one that made this other one work, and it won't let me do it, okay? So we'll get to that in a second, why I'm doing this, but it's hugely important. Let me do one more variation of this. Watch this. So I go here, I pick this, and I can pick that, or I can hit X on my keyboard, and it turns that one line dashed. Okay. Now, this is no longer a closed profile, so it will not extrude by the typical means, right? It's those two things I just showed you, where I go here, If I'm on this one here, can't do it now because that's not a real element. It will let me do a thin feature, but it will not let me pick that dashed line, the construction element. So you see I could do something like that, okay, which is kind of neat in itself. But hopefully that explains the couple different things here, the projections, the construction elements, and how we can go about choosing things to extrude. You have to have this closed profile to be able to extrude something like what we did here, okay? Great. So I'm going to delete that sketch. I'm going to delete this construction element, or the construction plane, and we'll get back to here. But you know what? I am going to stop this right now. So that's a good conversation about what projections are. Next video, let's get to using them, okay?